Hello from the BBC World Service and welcome to the latest edition of the Documentary Podcast. Every week we bring you a range of stories from our presenters and reporters across the world. If you have the time, please rate the documentary on your podcast app and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, I just landed in Myrtle Beach. It was about an hour delayed, so...
We saw that. We've been tracking you.
Oh, I'm being tracked.
And when you get in range of Dillon County, you just ask anybody where the CIA guy lives, and they'll probably tell you.
Your cover has been blown for a while.
Well, I went out undercover when I retired. I don't want to go to my grave in some kind of contrived story.
Yeah. All right, well, if you're sure it's still not too late for you all, then I'll see you in a few hours.
No, I usually don't go to bed until about 1 or 2 in the morning.
Okay. Or you watch up late, you watching YouTube?
No, I'm just usually messing around with... No, you're right, it's YouTube. Okay.
All right, bye.
You're listening to the documentary on BBC World Service. I'm Peter Lang-Stanton. This is the CIA's secret war in Laos. The summer before I went off to college, my dad and I were sitting in the living room on a Sunday morning, and he turned to me and he said, "Peter, let's go for a drive." This was not something that he ever said to me. He wasn't usually so old-timey and Leave It to Beaver-esque. Ugh. We got in the station wagon, we drove down the lane, and we sat at a red light at the end of our neighborhood. "Peter," my dad said, "it's time to tell you about the family business. Espionage." The car windows were down and the air was syrupy and hot. All the oak leaves along the road were twitching and going belly up. "Open up the glove box," my dad said. "Take out that piece of paper." It was his resume. His real one. At that point, what I knew is my dad worked for the State Department. He was a Foreign Service officer. Over the years, I'd asked him to explain to me what he actually did. Usually, it was instigated by a take your kid to work day that I never got to participate in, but he never said much. I knew that my dad had fought in the Vietnam War. I'd seen pictures of him in the jungle. I knew he was in Berlin in the 80s. We lived in Jamaica when I was a baby, then Holland, Munich. The resume was all chronological. It had all the same locations and time periods, except the job description for each one of them was completely different. So instead of him being in the Vietnam War, it said Alan Stanton, Laos, 1968 to 1970, CIA paramilitary. Later, when I eventually saw my brothers, I was mad at my older brother because he already knew and didn't tell me. And my little brother, who was still too young to be in on the family secret, I felt like I was on the other side of a one-way mirror, looking at him. I wondered if this distance that secrets create was why Dad was so emotionally airtight with us. At the end of the drive, my dad and I turned back into our neighborhood and came down the driveway. And I asked him, "Does Mom know?" "Oh," Dad said. "She works there too."
I got to fix that driveway alarm.
And he says, Peter, it's time to tell you about the family business. Espionage.
Oh, my God. Leave it now to be dramatic. How old were you then?
18.
18.
Do you think you can still have a genuine relationship with someone when one person is deceiving the other?
Yes. You're the same people. You've just got a different name. Tom Norton. Thomas L. Norton. And I retired after 30 years with CIA. I retired as chief of the agency's effort against North Korea.
I went down to South Carolina to visit Tom Norton. He was my dad's best friend in the CIA. I'm talking to him because I can't talk to my dad.
Your father and I, we had a solid year of training, just in operations.
So what did you know about the CIA before you joined?
Nothing. It was the height of the Le Carré novels. James Bond and all that kind of stuff.
Did you think you were going to be a spy as you understood it then?
Yeah.
One of my fondest memories of him in the last couple of years of his life was we got him a bottle of cognac.
Uh-huh.
Only on Christmas Eve, he would pour himself a little glass, and he would put on Dvorak on those speakers, and he would close his eyes and drink cognac.
Yeah, he introduced me to classical music, really. I will never forget Scheherazade, for God's sake. It played for 3 days straight up in Laotian, New Jersey.
My dad died a few years ago, and he said something on his deathbed that is sort of the whole reason I'm doing this piece. He looked at me and he said, "I'm prouder of what we did in Laos than just about anything, other than you boys."
In the late 1960s, during the Vietnam War, my dad was in his late 20s, around my age, and the CIA sent him to Laos to wage a shadow war. He and a cadre of other young guys, they were supposed to work with this Laotian hill tribe and form them into a secret army to fight against the communists.
A Laotian camp near the North Vietnam border. The troops are not regular Laotian soldiers, but members of the secret army, a 35,000-strong force trained and financed by the CIA.
The Hmong, H-M-O-N-G, they were already fighting the North Vietnamese and the communists before we even got there. And we supplied them, helped organize them.
My dad and the other CIA guys, they were supposed to be advisors to the Hmong. They were not supposed to get their hands dirty. This was a shadow war.
There are no American combat forces in Laos. We do have aerial reconnaissance. We do have perhaps some other activities. I won't discuss those other activities at this time.
It's hard for me to tell if the CIA was empowering the Hmong to fight a war they wanted to fight, or the CIA was using the Hmong to fight America's war. But either way, things did not go well in Laos. The young CIA guys were largely calling the shots out there, and I've read rumors of all sorts of misconduct. One officer named Tony Poe allegedly went rogue with his own private army of villagers, like Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now. The PBS documentary series Frontline reported on rumors of drug trafficking with CIA planes. The country was carpet-bombed, and unexploded mines and shells continue to steal limbs away from farmers and children today. And at least 2 books I read reference the use of child soldiers in the ranks of the secret army. It's really hard to imagine my dad being involved in that sort of thing. And if he was, I don't understand why he would say that the CIA's secret war in Laos was his proudest achievement.
The 2nd of July, 1969. My day actually started last night. Al Stanton met me at the airport when I arrived about 11:30 p.m. We set up in the hotel. Anyway, we got together and we started touring Bangkok. This morning we got up around 7. And when I say we were sightseeing bars. We were having drinks. And he said, oh, by the way, you're going to have a call sign, a name. One guy was Starch, Linus, Alabama. And I just looked up and I said, well, we're in the Naga Bar. What about that? Nobody ever called me Naga. They called me Tom. Now, he was Pigpen. People thought that was funny. Naga was not, but he's famous. He's Pigpen. And then he said, well, I got to go back to Long Chen. I said, okay. After a couple of days, the guy came rushing up and, you Tom Norton? I said, you Al Stanton's friend, Tom Norton? I said, yeah. Come on, we got to get you processed. He said he crashed yesterday, he won't walk again. He's been evacuated. And I said, shh. What? I just done a partying with him, and he just crashed. We were talking about my best friend. And he said, come on, we got to get you up there to replace him. Replace him? I can't replace him. I don't know crap. But I did. The chopper went up and it lost power. And it fell back down and rolled down the hill. And they had a load of hand grenades on it at the moment. They ended up upside down. Your father hit his harness releases and got out. And then went back and got the pilot out, whose back was broken. Well, Al's was too. By this time, the locals were on the radios calling down that the chopper's going down, we need help. So help comes flocking in, and they evacuate your father and the pilot, fly them to the Philippines. When you were injured, again, choking on, excuse me, they took care of you. I don't care what was involved. They flew, I think it was a C-130 with him and the pilot from Thailand to the Philippines just to get medical help. Sorry about this. But don't put that in your program.
Why wouldn't you want me to use that?
Because was a tightly controlled person, emotionally. But I no longer am because of my age. And I'm embarrassed by it.
To my mind, when I hear somebody getting emotional, it shows a genuineness and a vulnerability that I think...
I'd defer to your judgment.
There's certain places where you get emotional and you're talking about something and it says more than you can articulate with words.
Yeah.
So.
You're Al Stanton's son. I trust you. I'm going to get another scotch. Would you like a beer? Oh, damn. These legs are... On the 10th of July, 1969, I arrived at the job site, Long Chen, yesterday morning and went to work in the afternoon.
Long Chen was the CIA's secret base for the Shadow War in Laos, headquarters.
I flew for about 3 hours getting a feel for the terrain. It looks as I imagined the moon would if it had clouds. The land is jumbled and twisted. It's awesome. The first day I got there, I arrived about noon, and by 3 o'clock, I was 100 miles behind enemy lines in plaid golf shorts.
When Tom Norton got there, he took over my dad's job. My dad was still recovering from the helicopter crash.
I'm
I'm staying in a bunkhouse with a bunch of other guys. I was told to put my personal effects in Stanton's room.
They put me in Al's room, Al's bed, everything. And his AK-47's right there by the bed. I got a picture of it.
It contained a bunk with mosquito netting, a chair, and a Russian AK-47 assault rifle propped up in the corner. It rained several times during the 24-hour period. Consequently, everything feels damp and clammy, and there's mud inside and out. The accommodations definitely smack of a logging camp. I like it.
So, as I understand it from Tom Norton, one of my dad's jobs was to run the road watch teams. He would organize groups of Hmong soldiers and send them to go surveil the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The Hmong would sneak through the jungle and watch North Vietnamese moving into South Vietnam along the road. The Hmong soldiers would report back to him, and he would call in airstrikes. The CIA was flying a lot of planes in Laos, so many so that the code name for CIA in Laos was Sky.
Vang Pao took me on a quick tour of the area he's just recaptured.
And General Vang Pao, who was the commander of all the Hmong forces, he thought that American air power was just what he needed to win the war.
The enemy have taken to the hills. Vang Pao denies this success was due to Americans.
As you can see, have not seen. Have you seen American troop today?
No,
and here?
I haven't seen any Americans.
Yeah, like this, you know. No have American, no have Thai, no have anything come here.
I don't think I'd been there over a month before I knew this was a losing proposition. But I don't think there was ever any chance of winning the war.
Did Vang Pao and the Hmong know that?
I'm sure Vang Pao did. I'm sure he did not tell the Hmong, but, well, I'm not sure of that at all. I can't put words in his mouth, but...
3 November 1969. Last night I got drunk. Last night several of us got drunk. All young men, most unmarried, and all questioning the reason for our being here. You can't really appreciate the pressures on everyone out here. It's the kind of pressure generated within oneself. There's no one telling me to do this or do that. There's no one criticizing if I do less than my best. I've been leaving at 7:30 and working until 9 or 10 o'clock for 2 weeks now without a break. In a regular job, that would be a great excuse to say screw it and take off for a while. I could do that here and no one would say anything. The people who depend on me certainly wouldn't, because they're used to being stepped on and slighted. Now the only voice that I would be forced to contend with would be my own.
That was one of the biggest things about CIA. An individual could really make a significant difference. Just one person. Well, like the day I evacuated the refugees and the babies. That was me.
Lima Site 184 came under increasingly heavy attacks, and it became evident that the people would have to leave. The station refused to become involved in a mass evacuation, saying that they were not responsible for refugees. This was totally unacceptable as far as I was concerned.
CIA wouldn't give me the air power to get them out, so I went over to Pop Buell, the USAID guy, and he gave me every plane he had.
The aircraft landed at Lima Site 184, where I had arranged for mothers and infant children to be assembled.
And the mother had to be lactating so that she could feed the babies.
We loaded the porters with lactating mothers and infants too small to survive the march. 2 infants to each mother.
And that was the day the pilot got lost. Somebody had given him a sheet, and the course was 10 degrees off. And we couldn't find a sight. It was smoky season. All you could do is look straight down to see the ground. We had been searching for it for some time when I looked down through a hole in the clouds to see flooded rice paddies. There are no rice paddies in northern Laos. We were in Vietnam or China, I don't know what. We had absolutely no idea where we were. We began to run out of fuel. Tick, tick, tick. We had about 10 minutes worth of fuel left for flying. There's no use in sending out a Mayday. We didn't know where we were either. And I thought I saw a mountaintop way the heck 30 miles away. I said, go that way, because we're going to crash anyway. It didn't matter where we crashed. It turned out to be Lima Site 50. We landed safely and found one drum of aviation fuel by the strip, more than enough to get us home. I almost got off and kissed the ground. That was something else. Despite the screw-up, 60 infants and 30 mothers were rescued. That was a hell of a 32nd birthday, I can tell you that. It's one of the best things I ever did. I figure I saved 60 babies that day. I never did tell the CIA what I had done that day. Oh, Lord. Nobody else was taking an initiative. God knows how many of them would have been killed. The little soldiers in Laos, they were killed by the dozens. And I made a point of when I brought back their dead at home at night to help unload them to their family. I probably held more dead bodies than most people have babies. Oh, let's do something else. Well, that's the most talking I've done in the past 2 years, I think.
In trying to find out why my dad was so proud of Laos, I think one reason is that these guys had all the excitement of war without the blood on their hands. They were there, they were in the thick of it, but they weren't the ones doing the fighting and the dying. At least not for the most part. And that's because this was a shadow war. That's the whole point of the shadow war, that you wage war without actually waging it. That's the way it was supposed to work for the United States. It's possible that it sort of worked that way on a psychological level with Tom and my dad and all the other guys. The secrecy and distance, it allowed them to handpick what they were responsible for and what they weren't.
Pictures of Laos. That's a bomb going off, an American bomb going off on a target. As you've probably seen, Laos is the most bombed nation in the world. More bombs were dropped on Laos than the whole of World War II. That was my buddy there. Only about that tall. No, I love the kids. They're as cute as they could be.
So in that picture is a boy in uniform?
Yeah, it's a joke. He's not a soldier. Yeah. Oh, that was your father. This is the bossy or party for your father when he left. He was a guest of honor. And this was in Vang Pao's house. He was the commander of all the Hmong. At the end of your life, you'll regret the things you didn't do, not what you did do. There's my little soldier again. Well, I think we had kind of an informal rule that the boy had to be at least as tall as an M1 rifle to become a soldier, which is about 4 feet tall or 3.5 or something.
So they had to be as tall as an M1 rifle, which is
maybe 10 years old, something like that. And they were brave. They were too young to be afraid. The old experience was would run. Little kids would stay right there and fire, and shoot and everything else.
How did you feel about that when kids were fighting wars?
Quite frankly, it didn't bother me. We were fighting a war. We couldn't afford niceties of this is good and this is bad. But there weren't that many of them. I don't want to start another controversy that CIA molested the populace.
I asked Tom about this further, and he said that it wasn't the CIA's idea to use child soldiers. But there's something still difficult about it to me. I just wonder if and how my dad interacted with it. I wonder if this bothered him. I wonder how he acted when he came across a 10-year-old boy dressed in a uniform and it was his job to train him. I just wonder what he did. I keep thinking about what my dad said and how proud he was. And yet, so much of what I read, people say it was kind of a scar.
Not for those of us who were there. Outsiders who don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. And they've probably got it because they've read 15 other books on Laos, and they're all saying the same thing. We weren't cold-hearted. We were trying to help those folks and do anything we could for them, including bringing back the dead and the wounded and all that. And I don't want to make it sound like it's fighting every day. It wasn't. But they don't know what they're talking about. They really don't. For me, I'll speak just for myself. It was because I felt I was doing something worthwhile, productive, and Lord, the responsibility and freedom of movement. I never had another assignment where I had that freedom of movement and authority. It was wonderful. We were almost totally out of the bureaucracy. Nobody really told me what to do, and I had only been in the agency about 3 years.
So the reason you were so proud of it is because you were autonomous?
And to some degree, yeah.
I think I already know the answer to this question, but did my dad kill anybody in Laos?
No, I don't think your father ever killed anybody personally.
Really?
But he certainly was capable of it, as was I. But I'm glad I didn't, because I'm sure that face would be imprinted in my brain right now if I had.
My parents talk, don't kill anyone, don't shoot anyone. But they show us to kill. And they say, anyone that different face, you have to shoot them.
Do you think that you were too young to fight in the war?
Yes, I think I am too young.
We'll be back with part 2 of this story after the break.
This was recorded in the marketplace under a thatched roof.
Hey, brew.
Hey, for you. I think Uncle Pete told me Dad had like a party trick where he would take a washer, and like a round washer, and then he would put a piece of tape over it and throw it up in the air, and then pull his gun and shoot from the hip, and then go pick up the washer, and there'd be like a hole in the middle through the tape. What?
This is BBC World Service. I'm Peter Lang-Stanton. You're listening to part 2 of the CIA's secret war in Laos.
Maybe Dad told that to me.
That's possible.
Oh, God, I like that guy. Damn, I wish your father was here to hear this and all that.
Me too. What do you think he would think of this?
Probably just shake his head and walk away, but I'm not talking about you or your profession, but I'm talking about this particular project with me being interviewed.
I don't think he'd have much patience for this.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have much patience for it.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. I'm glad I had the opportunity to talk to you about your father and all. I'm sorry he's not here. He could have a beer and I could have a scotch and tell you all kind of lies.
After my dad died, some of his CIA buddies held a memorial service for him. Everybody was dressed in polo shirts, and there was baby carrots and hummus on the table. Tom Norton was there. He played a DVD that he had cut together called Travels with Al, and it was a quite long picture slideshow set to classic rock songs. So we all sat there and watched it. Afterward, a lot of these guys came up to me and they said things like, you know, have you ever considered joining the agency? We could use someone like you. Give me a call. You know, you'd make a good spy like your father. When we left, I thought, you know what? They're right. And so I got the application packet and I filled it all out. I'm going to be a spy. I thought that for a solid year. It was one night right before I sent in the application. I was up on the roof of my apartment when I was living in New York City. And I was drinking beers with my friend, and I'm telling him about my intention to do this. And I just thought to myself, I can't keep a secret. I have like a baseline nervousness that would make me flunk a polygraph right off the bat. The most enjoyment in my life is derived from talking to people and hearing about their experiences. Having a career where the premise is that I can't share my experiences with people, I just think that would make me so lonely. I would make a terrible spy.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm Pete.
Sing Ying.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hi,
Yeah,
I'm
come in.
Boo. Come on in. You guys just have to get around the baby. This is my little sister's baby. Her firstborn.
Go fall.
So there's about 4 other families that live here. Well, my siblings.
Ah.
So different multi-generational home.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So come on in. Hey, don't throw it at her. No.
Yeah, they're throwing those fishies.
Luther.
Nó khác nhau giống My name is Tong Seng Ya Seng Yang. When I was very young, my parents told me, when you go out from home, don't take anybody else's things. No one will see, but the sky will see what you're doing. In Laos, we think God is sky. Actually, Hmong believe that we have to do good, and then after we die, we'll be born again. My parents, they taught me when I was very young, we shouldn't do only good things. My father have about 30 water buffalo, and we have about 100 goat and over 100 chicken. We grow rice, and we have corn field, vegetable field. We grow all kind of food. And that is the very first village that I remember. Every morning, I have to go out and take those animals to the field. And then late in the evening, I have to take them back home. We started working when we were about 6 years old. For me, I really do not have a time to be like a boy and play and do the way I want to do. Well, I started school when I was approximately 7 years old. We have to walk to school about 10 hours every day, back and forth, studying early in the morning and then get home about midnight. I think approximately when I was 12, and we went to school, we get to a valley, and then we saw a group of Hmong soldiers were there blocking the road, won't let people go through. So when we get there, they asking nicely, say, how old are you to each person? I remember I told them I almost 12. One of my classmates told the Hmong man that this young man is the shortest one. At first, they won't take me, but finally my classmates say he is very smart, so they took me with them. They say, we will just take you to a safe place. They maybe just tell us a lie. At first, I feel scared. And I told them that I don't want to be here. And they said, just keep your mouth shut. Just be silent. After that, they brought the gun to us. They said, this is the gun you're going to use. And they show us how to use the gun and load and reload the gun. And then I see two American men. The first time I saw white people, two tall men, white men. One of them came and said something to us. I do not know what he said, but it was translated to us by a Hmong man. He said, how are you guys doing? And he said, welcome you guys here. We will help you young people. But he said to the Hmong soldier, maybe, he said, why you guys take so many young people like this? They're too young. As I imagine. But
Can you just tell me that one more time? Mm-hmm. You imagined the American said, why did you take so many young people?
Mm-hmm. They were talking to each other. Finally, I heard an answer from the Hmong men say that because we need more soldiers. We don't care how old are they or how young they are. At least they can use the gun. The American, he just say something smiling to us. I just don't know what he's saying.
After a while, the Americans started to teach you things. What did they teach you?
Maybe he's scared that we do not know how to use gun. He just repeating loan and reload, loan and reload. I have about 100 bullets on my vest, and I have about 3 hand grenades, and I have a bag of food. I'm the shortest one in the group, and it's too heavy already, so I can't put the gun on my shoulder and carry. I have to pull the gun. My parents talk, don't do any bad thing to anyone else. Don't kill anyone. Don't shoot anyone. But they show us to kill. And they say, if you don't shoot, you will get shot. You don't kill them, they will kill you.
Did you wonder why the Americans were there?
No. Gun is from him. Hand grenade and food are from him. We are with his side. I imagine that, oh, he is a good man, that's all.
Why? Why did you think that?
Because he's smiling and he say, if you need anything, I can show you and help you. As a child, I think he should be a good man.
So he was nice to you?
Yeah. And many times when he passed by, he waving, hi. One of the leader group, he came to me and he said, it's your night to sleep. It's your night to sleep. You may comfortable tonight. I remember was very cool night. It's very dark. Very dark. I'm not sleeping yet. And then finally I heard just a machine gun. It's just like all sound gun. I can't hear nothing. And then I get out right away because I went to where they told me my friends there, and then he just sit down and do nothing. All I see is he's shaking. And then we'd say that if I die and you live, you have to go tell my parents where I died. If you die and I live, then I will go tell your parents. If both I'll die, and then that's our lot. But we are shaking. Why you guys still keep shaking and doing that? Sure, you have an eye, you have a hand, you want to die? Sure. I can see bullet run close to me. It's red like fire. And then I was alone. And then I point my gun to there and I just shoot. I feel that I killed some people because no bullet came from there anymore. Well, maybe that person is kidnapping like me, or I don't know. I have no choice. If I don't kill him, he may kill me. But I don't see him, who he is, how he look like. All I see the bullet is coming, so that was in my mind forever since to today. The nightmare I've been having ever since is back to where I was fighting or running away from enemy.
You don't want to look?
Sing, do you think that you were too young to fight in the war?
Yes, I think I am too young.
In 1975, the war was over.
Right.
And the Americans left. And they left a lot of Hmong still behind in Laos.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of them got killed. Do you ever feel angry with the Americans that they left so quickly?
Not really. But I feel one thing. No one is righteous. And God also knows what we're thinking in our heart.
After the fall of Saigon and the Vietnam War ended in 1975, the Pathet Lao, the communist group in Laos, they published in their newspaper that they were going to exterminate the Hmong. They were marked for having fought against them and for working with the Americans. So 2 weeks after that, the CIA evacuated General Vang Pao, the commander of all the Hmong forces, as well as 2,500 of the Hmong closest to him and their families, and they brought them in helicopters to refugee camps in northern Thailand. Basically, a refugee crisis ensued. Tens of thousands of Hmong were left behind and had to make their own way to safety in Thailand. There was an exodus. They abandoned their villages. They hid at night in dense jungle while they were being hunted by the Pathet Lao. Often they were walking for weeks at a time, and then they would get to the Mekong River, the last obstacle between them and safety. Families would inflate flimsy inner tubes and tie each other together with rope, and then wade into the water and swim for hours into the dead of the night. If they were lucky enough not to drown in the river swollen during monsoon season, many were often killed by Pathet Lao who were patrolling the banks. The CIA was basically completely gone from Laos. It was easy for them to disappear because they were never really there in the first place. I know at least one CIA officer stayed behind to help resettle Hmong refugees from Thailand to the United States. And I wish I could say that
CIA officer was my dad, but it wasn't.
So why you heard about what we have in Laos? We call the secret war.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm.
The way I heard about it is that my father was in the CIA.
Oh, okay. Your father.
He was maybe worked with you. I don't.
Yeah. What
I don't
is
know.
his name?
His name was Stanton, and they called him Pigpen.
Oh, okay. I heard about that.
You heard about that?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because my cousin is a colonel, and I was in the home of my cousin all the time, so I saw almost every American. Oh, okay.
So maybe you may have been in the same room as my father.
Yeah.
Huh.
I saw him, but I don't have anything to say.
So you saw him. Somebody called his name.
Yeah.
And. Huh.
Okay.
Can my dad take a picture with you guys?
Yeah, of course.
Do you play those games? Perfect. One, turn up. 1, 2, 3.
I'm not even exactly sure what was so exciting about finding out that Singh was in the same room as my dad. It felt like something linked us in that moment, like a triangle was formed with the specter of my dad as the third point. My dad's actions brought me directly to this living room through some kind of intergenerational duty, like a Vietnam War era original sin I'm trying to wipe away. I don't know, it just feels like my responsibility to talk to some people about what they think about this. I just wonder if there's kind of a dialectic of action and reflection that moves down through the generations. You know, my father made war, and then I make art about it. Like, is that what we're supposed to do? It's funny how there is this stereotypical dynamic where the father thinks the son is ineffectual or a pansy or whatever, and talks too much about their feelings and thinks too much. It's that the father is forcing the son to do that because they didn't do it enough themselves. The father made the son that way. He gave the son no other choice than to be that way. My dad, at my age, he was in another country at war. He was fighting for the nation. He was saving people's lives. He was killing people. It makes me feel inferior. But at the same time, I know that necessary reflection, that's what we need more of. That's the thing that allows us to change course. As a person, as a family, as a human society, not just action and demonizing reflection as some kind of effeminate pansying around. I just think that part of reflection is discussion. We can't just keep our proudest moments locked within us like secrets. My dad died a few years ago, and he said something to me on his deathbed that I didn't understand. I'm prouder of what we did in Laos than just about anything, other than you boys. But the Laos part wasn't the only part that I didn't understand.
I was 23 and I hadn't done anything yet. And after he said that, I said, I'm going to make you proud. I just wish you'd be there to see it. Miss him a lot. Okay, just a grown man at work. Oh.
You're the boss, they can't run a bus. I got him.
This piece was produced by me, Peter Lang-Stanton, and Nick Farago of Light Fighter, a film and radio production house. Executive producer, Neil Trevithick. Original music by me, Peter Lang-Stanton, and Andy Bickerton. Editorial support from Will Stanton, Colin Chaney, Stephen Jackson, and Ravi Hukel. Sound mix and additional sound design by Jeremiah Moore. And a very special thanks to Wu Yang, Gail Morrison, Lar Yang, and Noah Vang.